And hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tectonic Lounge. Today, our guest here is Matt. Matt is joining us from South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Right, Matt?
Right on
So
the South Carolina, North Carolina border.
All right. So the important question I have to ask you is, which barbecue is better? North Carolina or South Carolina? Let's start with that.
Neither. Neither is the answer,
Neither.
to tell you the truth.
That's
I really
blasphemy.
prefer Kansas City barbecue. The North Carolina, South Carolina is like a vinegar base, and just not my jam. I prefer the brown sugar base, the ketchup and brown sugar base, Kansas City.
All right. Well, if there are folks out with pitchforks outside your house later, we know why. So
Exactly.
anyway, Matt Hudson is with BILDIT. BILDIT, is that how you pronounce your company name? BILDIT?
We call it BILDIT because our customers, every time we talk to them, you hear them repeat it. Build it, build it. I need to build it. I want to build it. We're great at building, including people and products. Build it. Originally, it was actually called Built. And we got into some trademarking things, and then we went with Build It because it just made so much sense.
All right. So BILDIT is an application platform in a sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you think about the way Shopify or Commerce Cloud or those things work, they give you the front end, they give you a solution. It's a SaaS-oriented product that you can engineer. Same kind of thing. We're giving people the mobile app solution. We're giving them a killer content management system. And then the engineering is for them. They can customize it in any way that their heart desires.
And your average customer is a mid-sized business, enterprise business. And what makes you stand out from your competition for your customers?
Well, we've been very lucky. We have almost nothing but multi-billion-dollar customers. We do have a couple others that are mid-tier. But yeah, primarily we're for enterprises, places with an IT group, retail, large-scale e-commerce. Shopify Plus kind of customers, I would say, are probably on the smaller size of the kind of customers that we look at. But our content management system is great for, all the way from enterprise to like a Shopify Plus size customer.
Okay. So you're dealing with larger customers and they come to you because a basic, let's say, content management or e-commerce system just doesn't cut it for them. Would that be a good description?
Yeah, but if you've got a mobile app and you want to build killer content without having to deploy to the App Store, Instagram stories, video players, carousels, banners, animations, if you want to do real, API calls inside of your content, similar to the way that you can do it on web, inside your mobile app, that's what we allow you to do. So if you look at a lot of the most sophisticated mobile apps out there, Farfetch or Instagram, Facebook, etc., they do all kinds of really cool things inside their app. Their logo is animating, and I'm scrolling through my feed and I'm getting animations whenever my app pops up, or I've got Instagram stories or TikTok videos. Those kind of content, that is complicated to deliver and usually requires a deployment to the App Store. You need your iOS developers, your Android developers doing that work. With our CMS, we can deliver that content from the CMS to the mobile app, render it natively, which is really killer technology, really cool, and give these marketers the ability to make really cool things. And, we're going to talk about marketing and AI today. And these two things kind of go together, right? If I can make really sophisticated content with AI, I need to be able to deploy it without publishing to the App Store or waiting for Apple and Google's review.
Yeah, I think that speed of deployment has been a differentiator for a lot of folks. We work with several tools with Code Engine Studio. We work with marketers who specifically say we cannot wait for a 1 week turnaround or
exactly. They've got a promotion
waiting on the App Store. Yeah, and they need to be able to deploy very specialized content. You get into personalization. You don't want to show the exact same video to everybody. So if somebody does like the mustard-based barbecue or the vinegar-based barbecue, they're going to see the better barbecue content than, the sweet Kansas City style. I'm a big mustard-based fan, by the way.
You're a Georgia barbecue man.
I even have a good friend who does catering in Alabama, and I've actually gotten to use the Alabama white sauce. So
Hey, that white
that's been
sauce is
quite good.
delicious. That white
It
sauce is
is.
delicious. There's a place here that does the Alabama white on the chicken wings. Oh man, they're good.
Yeah. I smoked a pork butt last weekend, and I served it up with some white sauce. So it was pretty good. Okay, so I think the area we want to do is we want to talk to folks today, specifically folks who are dealing with marketing and content creation, who are either frustrated with their technology or feeling overwhelmed by all the options that exist, and really give them some, I don't want to say tips and tricks, but kind of give them some ideas of how to incorporate modern developing technology, AI included, to really optimize what they can create. We're not trying to get, ChatGPT to become our marketing expert, because it's not, but we want to make our lives easier. So, Matt,
Absolutely.
give me your first home run swing. What, if as a marketing content creator, what do I need to know today in the AI world? What tool do I need to know of to be able to launch something?
Oh, what tool? So, I personally think that a platform, if you are particularly a large, company with a lot of concerns, I like Vertex AI. Google's Vertex AI is lays out everything. Now, if you're a marketer, getting into Vertex AI is not going to be particularly easy. Okay, this is not a go out and sign up the solution, but Vertex does take care of many of the things that a large scale retailer is going to be concerned about: compliance, bias, quality, all of those things. It when you use ChatGPT, the challenge to it is that yes, it's extremely easy, but the challenge is that number one, your stuff's not private. Number two, you can't necessarily know that it's unbiased. And then lastly, even though it's a very easy solution to get off the ground, it's not in your brand voice. So if I am a marketer, I want what is generated to be similar to what I've sent out before. So if I'm generating email subject lines, or if I'm generating push notifications or banners or whatever type of content that I'm creating, I've got to be able to ensure that all of those pieces are met, right? Compliance, bias, my security concerns within my IT group, all of those things have to be met. And not only that, but it's got to sound like me and not sound like, Old Navy and Target and everybody else and all the same. And that I think is a problem, in that, if I send out an email and my normal customer gets 5 or 10 different retailers' email subject lines, not only am I just background noise, but they start to notice. They start to notice that the same keywords are being used, the same styling is being used, and you just don't look authentic to people. So I'm not sure if I have a home run tool per se, but I think that overall, Vertex is a really strong platform. Our content management system going forward is really going to incorporate a lot of these things. But like I mentioned, the important part is the brand voice, doing A/B tests and split tests of the email subject lines or push notifications or whatever it is that you're doing, and making sure that those things work and are folded back in, not just sort of generating new ideas, right? ChatGPT is great for generating new ideas, but for a sophisticated system that you can rely upon, that is going to follow all the rules and meet all the standards, you've got to go with something that is a known commodity.
Yeah, so you touched on two very powerful things, in my opinion. One, I think that word authenticity, because I think, faking authenticity only works for so long. I think sooner or later you have to speak to your customers with your voice as a brand. And I think, I know you worked for Belk for a while. Belk is unique. They're not JCPenney. They're not Sears. They're not, Nordstrom. They had to be their own voice. And so I still remember, my connection with Belk is the Belk Bowl, for example, and that there's a unique experience there as well. So I always think about the fact that as a company, if you lose that voice, if you become just one of the million voices, one of the thousands of voices that show up in your inbox, your other social media advertising and everything else that happens, you might as well give up, I think, because you just get lost in the noise and you don't stand out. But the other thing you mentioned is, and we talked about it in one of the previous episodes, we had a great guest, Kate, who's a data scientist, and she talked about the growth of private clouds for private GPTs and that idea of being able to create content that's just for your customers and just for your audience. That's, whether it's behind a paywall or not, that was a whole long conversation that I'm not going to repeat here. But I think that idea of being able to create things that address that ability of, do we want all the content out in public? Do we want to be able to only do certain things for high level buyers or, representatives of certain areas or very specific groups? And of course, if you're a marketer and you're not doing A/B testing, if you're not doing personalization, then I think you're way behind the 8 ball. So we talked about a
you
powerful
might be surprised,
tool.
though. You might be surprised how many are not doing it or only doing it in a very limited way. If you look at the number of segments that a lot of companies have, you look at like a Gap. I was at Click Summit 2019, maybe it was 2020. And Click Summit is all about optimization. It's run by Brooks Bell, a big managed service provider of optimization tools. And one of the keynote speakers from Gap talked about they have 90 segments. And I got to be honest, I thought, oh my gosh, most of the retailers that I know maybe have like 6 or 8 segments,
Yeah.
But if you think about my problem as a marketer, if my team has gotten steadily smaller and smaller, some of it with AI solutions, some of it just the market being challenging, right? How am I going to generate personalized content for 90 different segments? Now, granted, a lot of those segments are going to have similarities, right? It's not just demographics and there may be small wording changes, but the point is there's no way that a team of 1 or a team of 4 is going to be able to generate 90 segments and then multiple channels. You look at the number of channels, just the number of channels that they have to deal with. Push notification, email subject lines and email itself, text message, right? SMS, mobile app, mobile web, desktop, TikToks, Facebooks, social media, ads, right? All of those things, every one of those things is customized and targeted or retargeted at a particular customer set and segment. If I've got 90 segments and I've got 1 or 2 people, it doesn't matter what tooling I have. Adobe Test and Target is a great tool. It's very powerful, but it's also very complicated. It requires a large scale team to do it. So the thing is how do we make these people's lives easier to personalize and give really great content? I personally think that it's got to be something where I come in and I get a suggestion for what it is that needs to be delivered for a particular segment. That way it can be edited, checked, make sure that all of the standards are made. And then it needs to be not only authentic, but also cross-campaign in context, right? I don't want to send different sales to different channels. I want all of my channels to have the same campaign, same style, same discount, same whatever as the other channels. And then, of course, bringing in analytics and stuff like that. But it's got to be really, really easy because I think where we're going is that one marketer can manage all channels and all segments. And that is huge. 90 segments per 6 or 7 channels. I mean, and if you count social, you start getting the ads, you're talking about 10, 12 channels.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell that a small team is going to be able to manage that.
Yeah, but you also can multiply that by the sheer volume of content because you're not just sending out 1 email a week. You're not just posting on social media
2-3
once
a day
week.
sometimes.
You're doing multiple things. Right. So, yeah, I was talking to some social media experts and they say some of the brands are posting between stories and posts. They're doing 9 posts a day because you got several stories that are going on, like a couple posts and videos. You multiply that. And then just a simple example, and I'll get back to your suggestion thing in a second, but just simple example from us, we're a small, production team for Tectonic Lounge, but even the way we post our shorts and reels, oh, wait, we can't use that one on YouTube because they have a word limit. Right. So that subject line, YouTube has that 100-character word limit. Well, I want a bigger word limit. So it is a headache and it is something that we have to do. So I think what you said, and look, everybody who's created content sooner or later hits writer's block, right? Because, and especially if you're doing 90 segments, because like you said, they may be 90, but there's a lot of overlaps, right? And you're writing about the exact same sale and exact same things going on. It gets boring after a while. But if you have a tool that can help you, or a set of tools that can help you get past the writer's block and gives you suggestions, and you're just validating and tweaking along the way, as well as having kind of a catalog of, okay, we have to tweak our voice when we're directing to that particular segment, or we need to, adjust our voice to that segment, then I think it makes your life a little bit easier. And then hopefully, as the system gets better, the suggestions get better as well, especially if you're applying your own private database as part of the learning criteria, I guess.
So the way that we see this is, and to get a little bit technical for the technical teams out there, is we see it as we have a really nice standard Llama 3, or I suppose Gemini, whatever our base model is, right? And it can be OpenAI too, if you really want it to be. Although if it's private, it might be better. So the way we see it is, all right, we start with a really good base model. The number of parameters doesn't matter that much, but it obviously needs to be big enough to handle the problem. So as an example, if I'm creating content for many languages, it obviously needs to be in many different languages, right? So when we first got started, we were using translation models, T5s, which are not LLMs. They're actually quite smaller, but they started picking up, language issues. So we switched to a larger model that was consolidated, that we could prompt, rather than just simply doing translations, because the prompting itself is extremely valuable in what you can potentially output. And then when you think about the brand voice being more like, an augmented solution on top, that's whenever we start to, add in additional personas. We start to add in additional considerations. Then the next part, and this is where it starts to get pretty challenging from the technical side, is, okay, we know that a certain A/B test told us that one particular set of words increased conversion, but which word? Right? What was it? Was it the sale itself that you were promoting, or was it the wording? And you start to have to understand sentiment analysis and some of these other things. So multimodal solutions on top of an LLM, is the way forward. Now you start to get even more complicated when you bring in biases. And you bring in, things like condescension, or not mentioning other brands, right? Making
Right.
sure that the AI is not mentioning brands that you don't carry, or things like that. And of course, having the human side of checking the work and making sure that it's good. But those humans can make mistakes too. And if you suggest Nike and you don't carry Nike online, but you do in the store, or something like that, and that human says, oh, well, we carry Nike, I saw it in the store. Boom, gone. So all of these things are considerations, right? Being able to generate copy, any LLM can do that. But the marketers need to think about all of these different aspects. Is split testing available? What are my optimization techniques? What is a brand voice? How do you define a brand voice? As an example, is it the use of Southern words because it's a regional retailer? Or is it your use of emojis or excitement? Is it being edgy? The one thing that I told many people is that the AI will never understand fashion trends. It doesn't know what the popular people are wearing on TV. It's not going to know that either. The human aspect of marketing is still understanding the human market. So yes, great for generating ideas. The tooling is still very much in its infancy. And I think we're going to get to a point where one marketer can manage all of those channels and can do all that. But we still have to inject the trends. We still have to inject the merchandising and other things too. And we can't just, from the technical perspective, we can't just bolt on OpenAI and call it done. That OpenAI algorithm changes all the time. Are you going to put your business at risk knowing that OpenAI could change the algorithm tomorrow and suddenly your open rate shoots through the floor? That seems like a really bad idea, right? They change the model one day, it gets tweaked, and boom, your conversion rate tanks. Can you imagine? I'm kind of going off on tangents, but you can see all the potential problems that could arise from just using what exists out there versus a verticalized solution that understands a specific problem. I mentioned retail. Sam Walton, I went to the Walton School of Business. Sam Walton said the 5 Ps of retail are price, promotion, product, placement, and people. And the reason why those are important is because, number one, copy's not in there, right? Or your specific pieces. If I sell Ralph Lauren for 50% off, it doesn't matter what the copy says, right? The price is determining whether or not people drive to it. If it's a particular brand, if it's in their face, the placement piece. So the price, product, and promotion, those all really matter. Which one of the promotions we decide to send out is extremely important. What pages we link them to is important. The AI can't just generate copy and suddenly be magic. We're all very inebriated with it, but it also needs to understand, where are we pointing people? Is that product in stock? Yes, we can control placement and the promotion itself to a degree, but some of those other aspects, we can't control. And you still got to have the inventory before they land on that page. So your AI has got to take all of those things into account. The data that you have is extremely important. How you process is important. The synthetic data that you generate in the model itself in order to determine what his output is extremely important. Anyway, I'm kind of going off a bit on a tangent, Serge, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, you threw a lot of great content there, a lot of good pieces, folks to chew on. By the way, for those of our listeners who may not be from U.S., who didn't go to Sam Walton School of Business, I'm guessing in Arkansas, Sam Walton is the founder of this little bitty chain called Walmart. They have a few stores here and there, so he seems to know what he's talking about.
They also own and a few. They own a lot of companies too, all over the world. So, but yeah, to put it in perspective, most people think Amazon is a large retailer, but if you compare Amazon to Walmart, Walmart's revenue is like, I forget the exact number, but 6 or 10x in the stores. Now, online, of course, Amazon is bigger than Walmart, but Walmart I remember 20 years ago, they did $1 billion day. But more importantly, Sam, what he understood was humans. And what he understood was that great people were made, they were built from a cloth. And if we treated them well and gave them principles, etc. But he did understand merchandising. His first store was the 5 and dime. He understood that what made people tick. And that's why Walmart is so successful. And sure, it's not Nordstrom, right? Like there's a lot of things there, but he understood how to get people out. And I use those 5 Ps all the time because people a lot of times want to think technology is what's going to drive conversion. It's really not. It's those 5 Ps. And then the technology is usually friction. Usually technology is preventing people from getting checked out. I can think of more times that I couldn't get my login correct, or that my sign up failed, or that I got an error, or that something timed out, or whatever, rather than technology providing me a good solution. So technology's got to get everybody out of the way. And that's really what I'm talking about with AI. How can we use AI as a tool that helps formulate and syndicate all of this great information that humans understand to the proper humans that it belongs with? And that is the connection that I think is awesome. I dream of a world, Serge, where grandma gets a different UI than her 20-year-old granddaughter. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I dream of a world where older people aren't just getting bigger fonts, but they're getting a slightly different experience than the younger customer is getting. Or, products is the most obvious one. We have these things called affinities, right? And affinities, AIs can help drive affinities because demographics don't drive sales. Behaviors do. So what I mean by that is that my wife does our shopping. Well, she often shops for kids. Well, are you going to always show her kids' products? Maybe she's shopping for herself today. Some women shop for their husbands. Some husbands shop for their wives, right? Some people are, fashion forward versus fashion behind. So if you think about it, those things are all behaviors where we can connect killer content that really great content makers make to those right people and figuring out who those people are without having to judge them based upon demographics. So as an example, I mentioned affinities. We can determine, are they a male or female affinity pretty easily, right? Like, did they add male items to their bag 5 times?
Sure.
But are they currently shopping for male, right? Or brand affinity. Do they prefer high-end brands or low-end brands? Are they clearance shoppers versus luxury shoppers, right? All of those different aspects. Do they have particular brand affinities? Because, like, as an example, I love the quality of Nike shoes, but they're too narrow, so I have to buy Reebok, right? All of those things are the human aspect that AI's massive processing power and capabilities can do. But typing in a prompt and outputting stuff, this is just the very, very beginning, and we're not even hitting the tip of the iceberg of what can possibly be done.
I think, I think you're saying a very powerful thing there, that let's not pretend there's a magic wand that's just going to do everything for us. I think the prompt as a magic wand has been overblown, overhyped. We just posted, I think 1 week ago, an episode with an AI researcher that did a really good job kind of demystifying the different types of AI, how they work together, including LLMs versus, all the other stuff. And I think that's great for folks as a primer. It's funny you mentioned affinities. Even something as simple as you talk about, as a person, a bargain shopper. I remember a study that came out that I did some classes at Wharton, and I remember going over that. And there was a particular study saying men in a certain income bracket will buy the cheapest possible socks, yet when it comes to their meat, they will buy the best quality meat. So just because you're a bargain shopper in one area doesn't mean that you're going to be a bargain shopper in the other area. So you get into, So, I think we get into all this stuff. So let's get back to more hands-on stuff. I think it is a bit overwhelming today. And I think you're absolutely right. I want to get back to the grandma versus granddaughter thing a little bit and then dig a little deeper. I think personalization is very powerful. I think more platforms like yours, we work with Acquid that's doing more personalization stuff. I think we're getting to that point where both the UI, the placement, even the language can be adjusted based on those affinities, based on personalization of, especially once you know the customer, right? Because you're dealing with a known quantity. You're not dealing with a persona. You're dealing with Matt, with Bob, with Jane, with Serge, with, whoever they're crossing. They know about you. They know your behavior. They know what's in your cart now. They know that, hey, generally, if your kid has soccer practice every Thursday, you're probably buying those oranges every Thursday. So, hey, you forgot to purchase. Maybe you'll remind them that. We all know the famous case study about Target and how it gets a little creepy at some point. So there's a balance of that as well. Let's get back to the marketers. I think it is easy to be overwhelmed by everything there's to do. And maybe your boss told you, you know what, we decided to cut back. You can be the only marketer because ChatGPT or Gemini, they're going to do most of the work for you. Just they're checking the box. Let's walk them off the ledge because 2 weeks into their new job, they're going, holy crap, I can't do all this. I can't account for voice. I can't account for that. Let's walk them off the ledge and give them some hope of what can a marketer who's just getting into this space to really do to harness the power of AI without being overwhelmed, without losing control of life. Let's put it that way.
So I think the first thing is understanding the personas, right? So in understanding what a persona is. So first thing is personas are not demographics, okay? That's the first thing that they've got to understand. And a brilliant guy named Ian, who was head of analytics, he really illuminated this for me, right? That we should not make assumptions based upon somebody's demographics. Those things are not good predictors of behaviors. So first thing is gather up your personas, know who they are, know what your team, your leadership and your marketing team agree on as your personas. Optimally, you would have a few, but you may have as little as a couple, and you may have as many as 20. Or you might just, it's very possible that you have, depending on your catalog, maybe you have a very narrow customer. But that just means that the differences are even more nuanced that you need to understand. As an example, I worked with Forever 21 before, and the CMO is a friend of mine there, and he's a brilliant guy. And one of the things that they did, they recently released ads that had different backgrounds. it's the same customer. They're all a young juniors style customer, but some of them are going to respond better to different colors than others, or different background images or different pictures of different humans, as an example, you talk about personalization. People are going to buy from people like them. I have what I like to call an oddly shaped body. If I see men with a body style similar to mine wearing the clothes, I'm going to more likely trust that is going to be suited to my body style. And that can be true for all sorts of things, right? Ethnicity, body style, whatever it is. So I think that those are really important considerations that you need to really understand what it is. Now, if you're lucky enough, your retailer or your e-commerce company has done some sort of surveys, and what are the buying habits, demographics, which should still be included, by the way, as well as, what are they like? What kind of things do they respond to? And if you have that data, we start there. Now, let's say that you are using ChatGPT and that's what's available to you. That's actually just fine as long as you understand how to use that tool. You may also want to send it back through ChatGPT and simply ask ChatGPT, does this output have any biases in it? If you look at the multiple different types of things that ChatGPT considers as a part of this sort of negative language, there are standard safety parameters that already exist. So I'll give you some of them. Condescension, prejudice, bias, obviously general bias towards particular, racial segments or whatnot. Those are all a really good place to start. And you can literally ask ChatGPT to grade its own work and ask it, are those things there? You can do the same with quality, right? If I'm generating copy, ask it in the prompt, to associate with a particular persona, is another, good option. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, separate it into smaller pieces, understand your personas, understand your tooling that's available to you. If it's ChatGPT, that's great, but use it to its full abilities. And then go out to various sites and look at prompt options. You can actually have ChatGPT write the prompts for you, and it will actually write much better prompts. A really good example is ChatGPT has an agent mode where you have a system user, a regular user, and an assistant user. And you can tell it, as the system, you are an expert marketer, right? In a brand like XYZ. And then as the regular user, you ask it, hey, generate content for me that sounds like this or whatever. Or even in the style of the particular company. Now, look, it's not always going to be perfect, but there are plenty of prompting examples out there for those types of prompts. PromptHero.com is one that comes to mind that's got a lot of prompts in it. Now, they've got advanced prompts, okay? Some of them are for Midjourney and the other bots, but there's a number of prompt engineering sites. And like I mentioned, if you understand the prompting, you can get a lot more than just a generic copy solution out. And I would just give a warning that when you look at what the output is of ChatGPT over time, you'll notice that there's a lot of trends that are very recognizable. The overuse of emoji, tell it, edit the prompts. Not the prompts, I'm sorry. Edit the copy that comes back. Don't overuse it. If you look at a lot of the chatbots out there, they're often bullet pointing things in a very specific way. And it becomes very easy to recognize the content. Not only that, but you obviously need to check its work. If you're generating long form copy, I saw an article the other day that was generated by ChatGPT, and it was talking about mobile app in the title. But then down in the article, it was talking about mobile web. It was embarrassing. So you can't overuse it. But if you use it well, you're going to get a lot better out than what you're getting in. Long term, I really hope that we get away from this chat concept. I personally think that the chat concept has one major flaw, which is that
Only
the
one?
output quality. Well, there's many, but there's one big one, or one generic umbrella one, and that is the quality of the output is 100% tied to the quality of the input. And what I mean by that is that people that are amazing with the prompts are going to get much better work out of it than the people that are not good at the prompts. And I know that sounds so basic, but ChatGPT is not going to suddenly make you amazing at marketing. You know what I mean? It's just going to help you massage it along and do it faster.
So yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of businesses out there right now that actually sell you pre-made prompts or offer prompt engineering consulting. So let me put it this way. If I were to sum up your advice is don't be overwhelmed. Ask GPT to check your own work, I think is a great tip, or ask any AI system, any content generating system to, hey, does this have biases? Does that have that? But I also think train yourself to be a better prompt asker. And I think use the experience out there, materials out there, training materials out there, but also use the GPT itself to help you write better prompts. And then as Absolutely. You see the results develop, I've started building myself. I know it's rudimentary, but I have a spreadsheet of these prompts gave me really good results. Let me use them again, right? Because I can tweak the specific question, but the way I asked the question was very helpful. And then sometimes you're right, it comes up with complete garbage, but sometimes
I'll tell you one really good tip that came from my engineering manager, Kevin. He has been doing an enormous amount of deep dive, rabbit hole kind of research into prompting in the past 2 years. And one of the things that he found that I think is fascinating is that if you tell it to talk in a particular personality, that you can often get different results out. And the reason why, the sort of mathematical reason why, is that if you look at the way these things work, if I have a set of words, let's say I've got, a gigantic set of words, just visualize for me now that this is the words that come up that are close to my prompt, right? When I type in my prompt, it's literally finding all of the words nearest those set of words to output its work. Now, I'm obviously oversimplifying, but changing one of the major keywords in the prompt shifts it from looking at these set of thousands and millions and billions of parameters of rows to up here, which what that means is that I'm getting a significant amount of results difference by changing a few small, important, critical path words. So by giving it a personality, as an example, Kevin made a Macho Man Randy Savage programmer prompt. But the thing is that not only did he talk like Macho Man Randy Savage, ooh yeah, he also actually output better work because it changed the way that prompting system was finding its indexing. So give it a personality. Don't be afraid to give it a personality of your brand. Don't be afraid to tell it, hey, you're an amazing marketer with a penchant for grammar, or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that's your brand. If you're a younger brand, ask it to treat itself as a young marketer. That young word is going to shift it from looking at these set of words down here to these set of words over here and slightly change each one of the things that it is looking at over time. Small things like that change the way that it approaches the output. And it's kind of like in the old days, Serge. Some people were really good at Googling because we understood that you could give it minus commands and you could put things in quotes and you could put one keyword at the beginning and one keyword at the end would change it, right? This is the same thing except for it's on steroids.
Yeah, I regret the fact that all my years of being a Google search expert are going to go down the drain, and I have to relearn all that.
So true. So true.
I am personally terrified for the disappearance of choice because the problem is a lot of younger folks are using a GPT model as a search engine. In fact, I think Search GPT is coming out from OpenAI, and that terrifies me because I want the variety, I want the choice, and I want to use my critical thinking. Okay, let me step away from the wall on that one. Last thing I kind of want to talk about, we focused on text. I believe there's a lot more to it with marketers, which is image generation, which is video creation, which is audio, other things. Do you see any code generation? Yeah. But I particularly want to focus on media with this question here. is there any advice or any shortcut you can offer a marketer today using the modern tools to make that media come to life better or create better media?
So I think there's a few things that are important. Number one, you need to understand the models that are available to you. ChatGPT uses something called DALL-E. If I'm honest with you, DALL-E is not as advanced as many of the other solutions out there. You also continue to have the challenges of, making sure that whatever that the prompt engine, the LLM outputs, or the image generation engine outputs, make sure that it's not copywritten. So just as a small aside there. But Midjourney is by far, a much better solution as far as the image generation. Understanding the different parameters, right? So as an example, in particular LLMs, I can give it quality prompts like, 8K, 4K, whatever, that make a difference. Understanding the certain keywords. I really like cinematic mode. Now it's not very good for retail, but for generating specific types of ultra realistic items. So when you go to like a prompt hero is going to have a lot of the examples of words that make a difference in the prompt. Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and ChatGPT are all going to have different things that they're good at. Some of it is just practice, but some of it is understanding the parameters. Like I mentioned, Midjourney has the ability to select from 4 options and then dive into one particular option and modify it. Certain Midjourney, as an example, will allow you to upload an image and modify it. But some of the results are challenging to get. So my advice to a marketer, if you're in e-commerce and you're trying to generate things for your website, a few pieces of advice. First of all, be careful, because you will see, just like stock images, you will see the same stuff across other websites. I've already noticed it myself. In fact, I made this mistake. I generated a light bulb for a blog entry, and I literally saw nearly the same light bulb from Midjourney on another site. Now, it was slightly different, Generating humans. Humans are particularly advanced at spotting faces. So there's a psychological concept that when you look at like a cloud, that you will recognize faces in the cloud, right? The reason is because humans are specifically trained since they're a little baby to recognize faces. Well, guess what? These AI solutions are not as good as us at understanding faces. So when you generate faces, it's not going to work. I personally think you should avoid trying to generate humans and consider only generating things that are less detailed, that humans are less adept. And by the way, the pictures of your humans are really important. If a person is smiling in the picture or looking straight on, those things gain attention in the ad world or in the online world, and they matter a lot. This is often why we see, certain types of people, models online, because those things attract a particular type of attention and a particular type of feeling. And so my point is that use real humans, because it's important for your brand, but it's also important to get the attention of the people that are looking at it, and consider just, changing the background, generate a more beautiful sky. Obviously it's got to look realistic, or using a human with a gradient background that is not photorealistic instead. So yeah, keep all those things in mind, understand your prompting options. Generally speaking, if you're one of the people that accidentally generates a 6-finger person, you're going to be really embarrassed. You know what I mean? And somebody will notice. So I would just say avoid generate humans, at least until the technology gets better.
And I think that that's an important thing, is double check the work, and also be, we use the word agile in technology world a lot for a lot of things, whether it's a project management model, but just in general approach. I think being agile in this world of AI, as the tools develop, as the new generations, whether it's Llama or OpenAI or whatever else, Gemini, create new versions, all these new tools become available, I think we'll see things get better and scarier and worse in some ways as they continue to develop, right? I think voice replications become very powerful, right? I think I've been
Yeah.
able to create, voice pieces that sound like me that I never said, which is downright scary. But I
Scary.
think
It is.
for marketers, you can, again, if you can get to that point and create the prompts and go back, tying all the loose ends here from our conversation, bring it back to personalization, right? You shouldn't have generic voices meeting you. You shouldn't have generic messaging meeting you. You shouldn't have generic media. I think you can get to a point of personalizing. And I'm hoping one day we'll get personalization on the fly, powered by AI, checked by humans, that really does represent the brands that we work with. Matt, I want to thank you for your time. Kind of give you a last thought here, 30 seconds, what people just kind of need to know, whether it's about your platform or their direction in marketing and AI in general. Kind of give me your final thought.
Well, my final thought on every podcast that I do is usually has nothing to do with my business, and it's just personal. And that is just, leave the world a better place than you made it. There's a lot of ways to do that in a number of ways. If it's mentoring in a professional environment, take somebody under your wing and help them. If it's you're at a campground, clean up something that was left behind by somebody else. Overall, we can all make the world a little better by having these little micro purposes. I'm personally not going to cure cancer. I'm not the kind of person or nearly intelligent enough to do that. But I can make my job a little bit better in what I do, be proud of what I do, leave the world a little bit better place, build people on our team. Like I mentioned, we're called BILDIT because part of what we do is building people, making them better, hoping that they learn, hoping that they improve. As an example, our team, we encourage them to set personal goals and we hold them accountable. We encourage them to take care of their kids and do the things that they need to do while they're working hard at our company. And overall, that all comes from what I call micro purposes, which is just generally leaving the world a little bit better place than we came into it. And I think if we all do that in all aspects of our lives, it can make the world a lot better place. And look, our podcast here, it's going to get a certain number of views, but if each one of us leave that with the next set, then hopefully we can do something that has lasting impact, even if we don't get the credit for it.
Matt, that's powerful and worth the time to say it over and over at different podcasts. And every piece, I think, one of the reasons I fell in love with Code Ninja Studio, apparently I was reminded this month I've been with the company for 8 years, at least officially. I worked for it before I officially joined, but is the fact that we care about people. And I think that we share that in common. It's try to improve your community. It's try to invest in people you work with, because you spend often more time with the people you work with than even your closest friends or even your family sometimes. So, it's not just a transactional relationship. Let's hope that people get better because we're near them. Let's hope the world gets better because we're near them. And yeah, tiny steps, the journey of a million miles begins with a single step. So I think that's great advice. Let's make the world a better place. One little tiny bit of time. Pick up a piece of trash today that you see laying on the sidewalk. That's also a helpful thing. Matt, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please enjoy this episode. Share with folks who you feel could hear this, and those who want to make the world a better place too. And come back and hear future episodes of Tectonic Lounge. Thank you, everybody.